The topic is solving percent problems with equations. The objectives in this topic are write percent problems as equations and solve percent problems. Recognizing key words in a percent problem is helpful in writing the problem as an equation. 3 key words in the statement of percent problems and their meanings are as follows. So key words, not key works. Of means multiplication. Is means equal. And what, or some equivalent of the word what, means the unknown number. So if we have 15 is what percent of 20, we can directly translate this. Each piece means something. 15 is just 15. Is means equals. What percent is our unknown, our x, our n. Of is multiplication. 20 is 20. So 15 equals n times 20 is a direct translation. And we know how to solve 15 equals 20x. That's what we're going to go on to do later on in this topic. But right now, we're just focused on translation. 2.4 is 25% of what number? Well, again, everything means something. 2.4 is 2.4. Is equals. 25% is 25%. Of is multiplication. What number is our unknown, is our n. So 2.4 equals 25% times n. What number is 50% of 0.6? Everything means something. What number is the unknown, is the n? Is equals. 50% is 50%. Of is multiplication. 0.6 is 0.6. We have something called the percent equation, which is percent times base equals amount. That is what we're building every time we translate one of these. Percent times base equals amount. So what number is 45% of 80? We translate. N equals 45% times 80. In order to solve that, we need the decimal equivalent of 45%. That's 0.45. Then we multiply 0.45 times 80 and get 36. So n equals 36. %65 of 90 is what number? We translate. 65% times 90 equals n. We need the decimal form of 65%, so 0.65. 0.65 times 90 is 58.5. So 58.5 equals n. We've been looking for the number or the amount, the base or the amount. In this one, we're looking for the percent. So we're going to have to do one little thing at the end. What percent of 35 is 21? Translate. What percent is our unknown? It's our n. Of is multiplication. 35 is 35. Is equals. 21 is 21. n times 35 equals 21. To get the n by itself, we have to divide both sides by 35. We get 21 over 35, which is 0.6. Remember those steps in the previous examples where we took our percentage and we converted it to a decimal before we solved the equation? That means when we solve the equation for the percentage, it's the decimal form. So don't say that the answer is 0.6%. This is the decimal form. And to go from decimal to percent, we move the decimal 0.2 spaces to the right. So 60% is 35, or 60% of 35 is 21. But that's how we solve percent equations. And that's it for this topic. The topic is solving percent problems with proportions. The objectives in this topic are write percent problems as proportions and solve percent problems. So we know one way of solving percent problems already, and that's by directly translating them into the percent equation. But we could also use the percent proportion. Amount over base is percent over 100, or A over B equals P over 100. The base is the number that follows the word of. The amount of the base is some percent. So translate to a proportion, 35% of what number is 28? Well, 35%, that means one side of the proportion is 35 over 100. 35 would be the percent number. Of what number? The thing that comes after of is the base, so the unknown is the base. And what's left is the amount, 28. So 28 over x, or 20. I don't fix all of the mistakes, but I'll fix that one. 28 over our unknown, 28 over our b is equal to 35 over 100. And we would know how we would go on to solve from there. We cross multiply, find the unknown value in the proportion. But amount over base equals percent over 100. 120 is what percent of 360? 120 is the amount. What percent is the percent? And 360 is the base because it comes after the word of. I like to find mine in a different order than that. I like to look for the percent first because that's easy to find. In this case, what percent is an unknown percent? So P over 100 equals, then I look for the base, what comes after of, that's 360, that goes on the bottom. And then the number that's left is the amount. I don't identify them in the order. I tend to always go the same order every time. So this is 120 over 360 equals P over 100. All we were asked to do was translate, not solve. Again, we translate what number is 95% of 75. Percent is 95, so 95 over 100 on the right side. Of 75, so 75 on the bottom of the left. And what number is what's left? So the unknown A. A over 75 equals 95 over 100. And again, I stress we already know a way to solve these with equations. If that makes sense to you, then you don't necessarily need to know how to do it this way. As long as you know one way, um, you can get them solved. So only when it specifically asks, write it as a proportion, or only when it specifically asks, write it as an equation, are you going to have to do one or the other. But in general, it's just going to be asked like this: what number is 60% of 55? And if you want to go n equals 60% times 55, that's fine. If instead you want to set up 60 over 100 equals a over 55, that's fine too. If you do set it up as a proportion, know that you can simplify. 60 over 100 is 3/5. So you can simplify when it helps you solve faster. Instead of doing 55 times 60 equals 100a, you can do 55 times 3 equals 5a. Or 5a equals 165. Divide both sides by 5. A equals 165 divided by 5, a equals 33. Thus, 33 is 60% of 55. But since it didn't say solve by using a proportion, you could get the same answer with the equation. 45% of what number is 36? You can use the equation 45% times n equals 36, or you could use the proportion. 45%, so 45 over 100 on one side, of what number? So the bottom of the left is the unknown, is 36. 36 is what's left over. That's the amount. That's the upper left. We can reduce 45 over 100 to 9 over 20. And again, you don't have to. You'll still get the right answer when you divide at the end. It's just that instead of dividing by 9 like we do here, we would be taking 3,600 and dividing it by 45. And either way, we get b equals 80. So I know I skipped a lot of the steps there, but we know what we're doing when it comes to solving proportions. Feel free to try this one on your own. Make sure you do get the same answer. Let's look at this one. Let's use a proportion again. Even though what percent of 120 is 78, could easily be n times 120 equals 78. Being sure to convert your decimal answer to a percent at the end. As a proportion, though, when we solve for the percent, like we're going to have to do here, we could answer the question with just what we get when we solve. Because P isn't a percent itself, it's just the percent number. P over 100 would be a percent. We can reduce 78 over 120 to 13/20. Cross multiply, 1300 equals 20p. Divide both sides by 20. We get p equals 65. We don't have to do any fancy decimal moving because 65 is the percent number. 65 over 100 is 65%. As p, it's just plain old 65, though. 65%. And that's it for this topic. The topic is applications of percent. The objectives in this topic are solve applications involving percent, find percent of increase and percent of decrease. 18% of Frank's wages are withheld for income tax. Find the amount withheld from Frank's wages of $3,680 per month. So before tax, Frank makes $3,680 per month, and 18% of those wages are withheld for income tax. So step one of a word problem, remember, is understand, read, and reread. We want to find the amount withheld. We want to find the income tax. If Frank's wages are $3,680, then 18% of Frank's wages would be 18% of $3,680, which is 18% times $3,680. I'm getting ahead of myself. This basically boils down to, though, 18% of 3,680 is what number, which we can translate. (18% times 3,680 is some unknown. And I was already going down this path. 18% is 0.18. 0.18 times 3,680 is 662.4. So $662.40 were withheld for income tax every month from Frank's wages. Mr. Buchanan, the principal of Slidell High School, counted 31 freshmen absent during a particular day. If this is 4% of the total number of freshmen, how many freshmen are there at Slidell High School? If this is 4%, if what is 4%? If the 31 absent freshmen was 4%. So 31 is 4% of some number. Method one is to translate this into an equation. 31 equals 0.04 times n. 31 is 4% of what number? And then solve for n by dividing both sides by 0.04. 31 divided by 0.04 is 775. So 775 would be n. In other words, there's 775 freshmen at this high school. If this is method one, what's method two? Method two is to take that same setup. 31 is 4% of what number? But instead of turning the amount, percent, and base into the percent equation, we use the percent proportion. Of what number? The unknown is the base, the bottom on the left. 4%, 4 over 100, that goes on the right. What's left over is the 31 that goes in the upper left. That's the amount. Cross multiply. You can reduce the 4 over 100 to 1 over 25 first if you want, but you'll get the same answer either way of 775. So anything that can be in one of our familiar forms that can be set up as a percent equation or a percent proportion, we can solve that way. A special type of percent problem is finding the percent of increase or finding the percent of decrease. The formula for percent of increase is amount of increase over original amount. And then you write the quotient as a percent. But it's always the amount of the increase divided by the original, not the new. The average soft drink size has increased from 13.1 ounce to 19.9 ounce over the past 2 decades. Find the percent increase. Well, first we would need to find the amount of the increase, and that would just be 19.9 minus 13.1, that's 6.8. Then we divide that by the original. What's the original amount? 13.1. When we divide 6.8 by 13.1, we get 0.5191, which is about 51.9%. Similarly, percent of decrease is the amount of the decrease divided by the original amount. Still divided by the original, though, not the new. John Smith decided to decrease the number of calories in his diet from 3,250 to 2,100. Find the percent decrease. Well, first we need the amount of the decrease. 3,250 minus 2,100 is 1,150. We divide that by the original. What's the old number of calories? 3,250. And when we divide, we get 0.3538, which is about 35.4%. And that's it for this topic. The topic is percent and problem solving, sales tax, commission, and discount. The objectives in this topic are calculate sales tax and total price, calculate commissions, calculate discount and sale price. So sales tax is similar to income tax in that it's the tax rate times some amount. With income tax, it was the tax rate times the amount of income. With sales tax, it's the tax rate times the purchase price. And then once you know the sales tax, you can find the total price, which is just the sales tax added on to the purchase price. So a gold and diamond bracelet sells for $1,800. Find the total price if the sales tax rate is 6.5%. So first we would find the sales tax. That would be found by taking the tax rate times the purchase price, the 6.5% times the 1,800. So in sales tax, you'd be paying $117. 6.5% as a decimal is 0.065. We multiply 0.065 times 1,800, we get 117. So then the total price would be the purchase price of $1,800 plus the sales tax of $117, $1,917. In the last example, we were given a sales tax rate and we found the tax. In this problem, we're given the tax and we want to find the tax rate. So the sales tax on an $18,500 automobile is $1,665. We want to find the unknown sales tax rate. We'll call that R. We know that sales tax equals tax rate times purchase price. The sales tax in this example is $18,500. Sorry, the purchase price in this problem is $18,500. The sales tax is $1,665. R is our unknown tax rate. So we make that equation just from what we know about sales tax, which is that it's tax rate times purchase price. To get R, divide both sides by 18,500, and we get 0.09. That would be the rate as a decimal. As a percentage, move the decimal 2 to the right, we get 9%. A similar concept is commission. It works the same way. A commission is a percentage you make off of sales that you do. So the commission would equal the commission rate times the amount of sales. A sales representative for office product copiers sold $47,632 worth of copy equipment and supplies last month. What is his commission for the month if he's paid a commission of 6.6% of his total sales for the month? He's paid 6.6% of 47,632. Commission is commission rate times sales amount. When you do your equation, make sure that that 6.6% is expressed as a decimal. 0.066. We need that for the math to math. 0.066 times 47,632 is 3,143.712, but this is money. So $3,143.71. In the last one, we were given the commission rate and we needed to find the commission. In this one, we're doing the reverse. We're told that a salesperson earned a commission of $3,575 for selling $32,500 worth of books to various bookstores. We want to find the commission rate. Well, we know that the commission equals the commission rate times the sales. We're looking for the unknown rate. We're looking for R. So 3,575 equals R times 32,500. Divide both sides by 32,500. We get that R is 0.11. And as a percentage, that is 11%. Let's do another one. A salesperson earns $645 for selling $4,300 worth of appliances. Find the commission rate. We're going to let R be our unknown commission rate. We know that commission equals commission rate times sales. So we know that 645 equals R times 4,300. Divide both sides by 4,300 to get the R by itself. We get 0.15, and that's 15%. This last part of the topic is going to seem like everyday sense because we all shop and we all like sales. We're going to look at discounts and sale prices. The amount of a discount is going to be the discount rate times the original price. And then the sale price again, I don't fix all of the mistakes, but I'll fix the important ones. The sale price is the original price minus the amount of the discount. So the amount of the discount is the discount rate times the original price. The sale price is the original price minus the amount of the discount. So if something is 33% off, for example, we would multiply 33% times the original price to get the amount of the discount, and then we would subtract that from the original price to get the sale price. Chances are you know how to do this. A $2,000 designer dress is on sale for 30% off. Find the discount and the sale price. Well, it's 30% off. It's 30% off of 2,000. So we need to find 30% of 2,000. 0.3 times 2,000 is 600. And if it's $600 off, that's 2,000 minus 600. And that's 1,400. So the sale price is 1,400. So forgive me for skipping through the part where we set up amount of discount equals discount rate times original price. We figured that out from what was given. We figured that out from what we know about shopping. If something's 30% off, it's 30% off of the original price. We would have to find what 30% of the original price is to find the amount of the discount, and then subtract that from the original price to get the sale price. And that's it for this topic. In number 11, we want to write the fraction as a decimal. We're given 17/25. We can get this to a nice number by multiplying by 4/4 so that the bottom is 100. 17 times 4 is 68. 68 hundredths is literally 0.10 hundredths. Write in 68. So 0.68 is our decimal. We could have also just divided 17 divided by 25. 25 doesn't go into 17. Give ourselves a 0.0, bring the decimal point up. 25 goes into 170. If we think of quarters, 4 would be 100, and 5 would be 125, 6 would be 150. That's as most as we can go, because next would be 175, which is too much. We have a remainder of 20, give ourselves a 0, bring it down. 25 goes into 208 times evenly. So again, 0.68. Next up in number 12, write the percent as a decimal. 67%. Remember our order, alphabetical, D comes before P. So decimal to percent is moving to the right. Percent to decimal is moving to the left, and that's 2 spaces. So for percent to decimal, we have our decimal point right here. Move it 1, 2 spaces to the left. 0.67. In 13, we're going the other way. We have a decimal 3.6. Decimal percent is 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. Imagine there's a 0 there. Make sure we have our percents. 360%. In number 14, write the decimal as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. We're given 37.54. How would we say this? 37 and 54 tenths hundredths. 54 hundredths. 37 and 54 hundredths. Reduce the fraction. Top and bottom can both divide by 2. 54 divided by 2 is 27. 100 divided by 2 is 50. 37 and 27 fiftieths. We have 19 total. We're on number 15. 15, write the fraction as a percent. We have 13 sixteenths. Percent is over 100. There's no nice way to get this there. 16 times the number isn't going to give us 100. So we're forced to divide to get a decimal. And then we'll change that decimal to a percent. So 13 divided by 16. 16 doesn't go into 13. Give ourselves a 0.0, bring the decimal point up. 16 goes into 130 some number of times. I'm just going to start with 6 and see what happens. 16 times 6. 6 carry the 3. That's 96. Can we fit in another one? 16 times 7. 42, carry the 4. It's 112. Can we fit in another one? 16 times 8. 8 carry the 4. 128. We're not going to get closer than that because we are trying to fit it into 130. So it goes in 8 times. Eight times 16 is 128. Subtract, get a remainder of 2, give ourselves a 0, bring it down. 16 goes into 20 once. 1 times 16 is 16. Subtract, we get 4. Give ourselves a 0, bring it down. 16 goes into 40 twice. 2 times 16 is 32. Subtract, we get 8. Give ourselves a 0, bring it down. 16 goes into 80 5 times evenly, because 16 times 5 is 80. So as a decimal, 13/16 would be 0.8125. As a percent, it would be 81.25%. But our answers are in fractions. What is 0.25? It's 1/4. 81 and 1/4%. Next, 5 and 5/6 as a percent. Let's write 5 and 5/6 as a decimal first. 5/6 would be 5 divided by 6. Give ourselves a 0.0, bring the decimal point up. 6 goes into 50 8 times. 8 times 6 is 48. Give ourselves another 0 to bring down. 6 goes into 20 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. And we're going to get a repeating 3 at this point. So as a decimal, 5 and 5/6 would be 5.833333, so on and so forth. Decimal to percent is 2 spaces to the right, 583.333, and so on percent. And what is 0.3 repeating? It's 1/3. 583 and 1/3%. In 17, we're given a ratio. We want to write it in fractional notation. We're given 8 and 1/4 tons to 8 and 1/3 tons, and it tells us to write it in simplified form, simplest form. So first we write as a fraction. Tons cancels. We can't have mixed numbers inside of our fraction when it's simplified. This is a division problem. 8 and 1/4 divided by 8 and 1/3. Mixed numbers go to improper fractions when we divide. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 1 is 33/4, divided by 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 is 25/3. Keep change flip to a multiplication problem. 33/4 times 3/25. 33 times 3 is 99. 4 times 25 is 100. 99/100. Or if we want to read it correctly, since this is a ratio, 99/100 would be our answer. In 18, we have a rectangle. We're told the width is 19 meters. We're told the length is 22 meters. We want the ratio of width to perimeter. We're given one of these things. Width is 19 meters. But we're not given the perimeter. We have to find that ourselves. 19 plus 19 is 8. Oop, off the screen. 19 plus 19. 8, carry the 1, 38. 22 plus 22 is 44. And then 44 plus 38 to carry the 1 is 82. Meters cancels on top and bottom. We're left with 19/82. 19 to 82 is the ratio of width to perimeter. Finally, number 19. We want to find the unit rate. 222 students for 6 teachers. When we find the unit rate, remember this gets split off. We need to divide 222 by 6, and then it's students per teacher. But what is this number? 6 goes into 22 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. Subtract, get a 4, bring down the 2. 6 goes into 42 7 times evenly. So 37 students per teacher.
We are continuing the review. We have the proportion n over 38 equals 5 over 19. And we want to find the unknown number n. So when we have fraction equals fraction, that is called a proportion. And we can solve a proportion by cross multiplying. So when we have fraction equals fractions, we are allowed to cross multiply over the equal sign. Multiply the diagonals together. N times 19, we write that as 19n. 19 times n. And then this diagonal, 38 times 5. So 38 times 5. 5 times 8 is 40. Carry the 4. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 4 is 19. So we have 19 times n equals 190. And this is a little bit of algebra. You can figure this out. 19 times what is 190? And you can see that n equals 10 because 19 times 10 is 190. Or you can think in algebra terms, if we want to solve this, we want to get the n by itself. N is currently multiplied by 19. We undo multiplying by 19 by dividing by 19. And that has to be done on both sides to keep it balanced. 190 divided by 19. 19 goes into 19 once with no remainder. 19 goes into 0 0 times, nothing else to bring down. The answer is n equals 10. The word problem, and I'm going to set up the proportion as I read it. There are 1.5 milligrams of iron in a 3.5 ounce serving of pork. So that's going to be one side of our proportion. So equals another ratio. We're going to do milligrams on top, ounces on the bottom, just to match it up to the left side. How much iron is in 5 ounces? So we're looking for an unknown number n for a number of milligrams on that side of the proportion. Just like the last one, we need to cross multiply. So on one side, we're going to have 1.5 times 5 equals, on the other side, 3.5 times n, 3.5n. So we have to do 1.5 times 5. Remember, we don't line up decimals when we multiply. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. There is one space past decimal points, so we put one space after the decimal point in the answer. 1.5 times 5 is 7.5 equals 3.5n. Now we're going to divide both sides by 3.5 to get the n by itself, both sides to keep it balanced. N equals, we would have to do 7.5 divided by 3.5. And when we divide by a decimal, we cannot have a decimal point on the outside. So one space to the right everywhere turns this into 75 divided by 35. 35 goes into 75 2 times. 2 times 35 is 70. We have a remainder of 5. We need to round our answer to one decimal point, so we're going to need 2 places past the decimal in order to do that rounding. Put in a 0.0. Bring up the decimal point. Bring down the 0. 35 goes into 50 once. 1 times 35 is 35. We subtract. We get 15. Give ourselves another 0, bring it down. How many times does 35 go into 150? That's going to be 4. Because 2 times 35 is 70, therefore 4 times 35 would be 140. And yes, we get a remainder of 10. Yes, we can keep going, but since we're just rounding to one decimal place, 2.14, we'll round to 2.1. So our answer is 2.1 milligrams. We have the statement, the question. 10% of 600 is what number? We have two ways of doing this, either via proportion. 10% is 10 over 100. Of 600, the number that comes after of is always on the bottom, is what number? So we're solving for an unknown, x or n, whatever you want to call it. Cross multiply, 600 times 10 is 6,000, equals 100x. Divide both sides by 100. And we get x equals 60. You could also do that by direct translation. 10% is 0.1 or 0.10. Of 600 means times 600. Of means times. Is equal what number? That's x or n. And 0.1 times 600 is 60. So that's our other way of getting there. Write down our question. What percent of 1 is 0.14? So proportion. What percent? X over 100. The percent is unknown, but percent means over 100. Of 1, so the number on the bottom is 1, is 0.14. Cross multiply, 0.14 times 100 equals 1 times x. 0.14 times 100 is 14. 1 times x is x. X is 14. X is the percent number. So to answer the question, 14%. Now we're going to do similar work if we had done a direct translation. What percent? That's unknown. So x of 1 times 1 equals 0.14 is 0.14. X times 1 is x. So here we get x equals 0.14. That's different than x equals 14. But remember, when we use the equation, x has to be written as a decimal. So the decimal version of the answer is 0.14, which means the answer, what percent, would be 14%. Decimal to percent, 2 spaces to the right. So no matter how you do it, you're going to get 14%. A $260 dress on sale for 25% off. We want to find the discount and we want to find the sale price. So $260 is the full price. If it's 25% off, we need to find 25% of 260, and that will be the discount. So that's 260 times 0.25. Of means multiply, so 0.25 times 260. And this is 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 6 is 30, carry the 3, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13. 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 6 is 12, carry the 1, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 0, 0, 5, 6. 6,500 won't be the answer, though. We have 2 spaces after decimal points, so it would be 65. 25% of 260 is $65, and that's the discount. So to find the sale price, we would take the $260 original price and subtract the $65 discount. 10 minus 5 is 5. We made that a 10 by borrowing from the 6. Now that's 5 minus 6, and we can't do it, so borrow again. The 2 becomes a 1. 15 minus 6 is 9. 1 minus nothing is 1. So the sale price, $195. In a recent survey of 60 people, 30 said that their favorite color of car is black. What percent of the people surveyed liked black cars? Well, that is 30 out of the 60 people. We can reduce 30 over 60 to 1/2. 1/2 is 0.5, is 50%. Or from 1/2, you can go 1/2 times 100% is 100 over 2% is 50%. A mirror has a purchase price of $38. If the sales tax on this purchase is $2.85, what is the sales tax rate? In other words, we're asking, what percent of 38 is $2.85? What percent of 38 is 2.85? So, 2 ways to do it, either a proportion, what percent of 38 is 2.85, or what percent of 38 is 2.85. So here when we solve for x, x is in decimal form. We'll have to move the decimal place 2 spaces to the right to get percent. Here it's already going to be done. 2.85 times 100 is 285. 38 times x. Divide both sides by 38 to get our answer. So I need to do 285 divided by 38. 38 doesn't go into 2. It doesn't go into 28. So we have to do 38 times some numbers. Eventually we'll get 38 times 7. 7 times 8 is 56. Carry the 5. 7 times 3 is 21 plus 5. That's 266. Times 8 is too much. So it does go in 7 times. We get a remainder of 19. Give ourselves a 0, bring it down. 38 times 5 is 190 evenly. So 7.5 is x. So that means, since that is the percent number here, 7.5 over 100, it's straight away 7.5% as the answer. If we did it this way, we would be dividing both sides by 38. After all the work we do, we would get x equals 0.075, and as a percent,